You're listening to She's the Business podcast. Welcome, made by women for women in business. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you a really deeply personal, but I think very useful and insightful story of how I discovered an old identity was still lurking in the background, still holding the reins and driving the business down paths that I really didn't want to be on, and how I discovered it, what we have done about it, and just maybe you may relate to some of this story yourself and be able to discover something that is present for you. So stay tuned, it's coming right up. I'm your host, Jessica Osborne. I'm a marketing strategist for well over 25 years now. I support women to find their real zone of expertise where their personal power lies so that they can become an unmistakable expert in their field, in their industry, and ultimately attract the right clients who see their value, absolutely understand it, and are willing to pay for it. As a busy mother of two sporty kids who compete in competitive sports, when you have a busy life, a very full life, you need a business that absolutely supports you to show up as your best self and be the sort of parent, partner, friend, family member that you really want to be. And that means I'm so passionate about helping my clients not just create a profitable offer that sells, but actually create the kind of offerings that allow them to live that life. Because we're only here on this planet for a short time. If you're not enjoying it, what are you doing? That is really the premise, the core premise that I live by every day, every week. And I want to help as many women as possible achieve that as well. So back to today's topic. Well, the identity thing. I just want to premise this by saying I am not an expert in identities. I'm not a trained psychologist. However, I did study psychology at university. I think I understand and know of a fair amount of it. But this is not my area of expertise. This is really me sharing with you some insights after almost a decade of being in online business no, that's not true. Started my first online business back in 2010, but almost a decade of being in the coaching industry. I think there's something really, really different about running a business that is a personal brand business. It is a business based on your expertise where your clients are essentially buying what you can help them do. They're not buying you as a person, but they're really buying your expertise, your experience, your insights, your ability to see through the clutter that's crowding their eyes and their vision and their mind, and help them to focus in on what is really important, what matters, and obviously to help them achieve their goal. Now, you might be in the health or wellness, fitness industries. You might be in the life coaching, around relationships, around life purpose. There's so many different aspects of coaching that are not business to business. Myself, I have a real passion for business. So I started this business off the back of a very long, successful marketing career where I had 20 years I spent in the corporate world, working for other companies, building brands, starting new businesses, literally launching brands into the market, mostly all for service-based service-based products. So I really understand the world of selling a service, and often selling a very high ticket service, because I worked for the likes of engineering consultancies and IT that was in a very high tech area. So it was a transition absolutely for me to step into this place where suddenly, instead of being behind the brand and being invisible, but kind of putting the brand out there, now you're the brand. That in itself was a huge shift. So I want to start this story really at that time of going from a career where you're an employee into fully into business ownership. Now, I see this for me happened when I decided to start this coaching business, because I started my first business while I was still an employee, and it kind of ran as a side hustle on the side. But I was still very much tapped into the identity of, let's call her corporate Jess, the Jess who worked her way up the ladder to the very top. She was head of marketing communications. She was a highly successful marketer, corporate employee who managed a team, was really successful at doing all of the things that made her an A player in an organization. And she was great. I had a really great time being her. And I know it's weird, I'm talking about her in a third person, but I think you're going to understand this in a moment, because when I decided to leave that world, it was by choice, of course. I made the choice to leave. However, even though I did make the choice, it was extremely emotional. I found it extremely challenging and difficult. Some of the circumstances around why I chose to leave, I was extremely cross about. There was there's a lot of, shall we call it, propaganda, verbiage in the corporate world. Lots of companies with their fluffy HR speak around it, so family friendly and we're family first and all this. And what that really boils down to often is they've got a couple of things in their policies, but day to day, they're not particularly family friendly. At least that was what I discovered in male dominated industries such as engineering, such as technology. And it was the tech world I was in when I left. And I left because I could just see that we were not aligned. We were not aligned in what this meant. We were also not aligned in the fact that as a female and as a woman in a senior management role, I was not treated the same as men in similar roles. And it didn't matter what I did. I could keep improving results. There were so many things that corporate Jess did, and it still was never going to change. So I made that choice to leave. As you can imagine, the shedding of who I am as a corporate employee and becoming a business owner, that was painful. There was an absolute shedding of an identity, a rebirth. Some people call it a shamanic death. I'm not an expert, as I said, in this, but yeah, I absolutely went through this kind of rewiring, remodeling of who I am. Like, who am I now that I'm not in this role? And, I'm not the person with the job title anymore. So there is an identity shift that happens. And no doubt every person who's been through that time where you've decided to leave your job, no longer have a job title, work for yourself, be a owner of your own business, maybe, quickly adopt a new job title and that feels fine to you. But I know that for a lot of us, especially when you've been in a business for so long, if it's been more than 10 years, then probably a lot of your identity was tied to the job that you had. You were either proud of it because you'd worked really, really hard and got to a place that you really wanted to be in, or maybe you were less proud of it and you were absolutely gunning to move up the ladder and get to the role that you felt fitted your idea of the identity you wanted to be in, right? I will absolutely put my hand up and say that was me. Throughout my 20s, I was 100% not happy where I was, and I was doing everything I could to jump up the ladder, to get better roles, to move up. And I really enjoyed it. When I got to head of marketing, I stayed there for my longest ever role, I think, as an employee. It was around 6 years. I enjoyed it. It was great. But as I said, there got a time where I realized this wasn't the world for me. It was time to leave. And I really saw the value, the potential, the purpose that I could bring in the outside world by helping other women to start a business, to build a brand, to do all the things that I'd been doing for so many years as an employee. I could do that and help women in their own business. So I started a business to do exactly that. That was almost a decade ago now. That was in 2017, at the very beginning that I began. Now, what happened next? I thought I'd got rid of corporate Jess. I thought that I'd put her to bed. I was now me. I was an entrepreneur. I had been through, as I said, the process. It didn't happen overnight. It took a while. I think it took me 2 years to really be able to talk about my time as an employee and why I left and all of those things, without feeling just complete emotional rage about it. It took me a long time. So I don't know, for some people, it might not take more than 2 years, but that's how long it really took me to feel like it's okay. I've moved on. I'm here in this place now and I'm all good. And my business went well. It was started off really well. And there were things that happened and I thought, this is going great. It grew quickly. I moved from one-to-one coaching. I started a group program. It led into sort of like a group course that I had. I created a membership. Then I went around Australia for a year, which was fantastic. Packed up the house, packed up the kids, took them out of school and went on a caravan trip. And it wasn't until I got back that I started to feel like the alignment had really not landed fully for me. And I thought that the problem was in what I was doing. So for the next, now let me count, about 4 years, I would go through a process of literally changing everything in my business, trying to find this alignment because I couldn't put my finger on it, but something didn't feel right. Now, on the outside, everything looked fine. I had started my podcast, which you're listening to now, which I loved. And I still was working with clients. I was helping them get really great results. So I discovered very quickly that even though I started off kind of broadly saying I'd help people with their marketing and brand and attracting clients, where I really loved to focus in on and the bit that I could do better than I think anyone that I'd ever come across is helping them to find that piece of, I'm not going to say piece of expertise. Sometimes it's a mixture of the expertise that they held that could come together and combine into something quite unique to them, where they really had so much personal power, a platform that they could stand on. They could say that they're an expert in it, feel like an expert, and show up as one. And from there, obviously, it was always super easy to understand what was the right offering, how you're going to sell the offer. That's really very process driven and easy to do when you've got that first piece right. So I loved to hone in on that. And it was ironic because here I was having almost the exact same problem that I help clients with. And I was really struggling to figure out why it didn't feel aligned. So I changed my programs. I would change my pricing. I'd changed over these 4 years where I was trying to figure it out. I would change how long the program was for. I'd be thinking, well, maybe it's because it should be bigger. It should be longer. Then it would be shorter. I changed my messaging. I tried different styles of launching. I did webinars. I did live launches. I did a secret podcast. I literally did everything under the sun and it all kind of worked. Like, there would be results, there would be some sales, nothing took off, like nothing just blew up. And I started to feel like, gosh, there is really something wrong with me here. Like, how can I get these results for my clients? How can I help them achieve success so quickly and easily? And here I am, yes, kind of successful, but I would look at it and go, it's not really enough. And I was so critical of myself. And so I've thought, well, maybe it's me. It's got to be me. I'm the common denominator, right? And so this carried on. And so for this is still part of the 4 years, I think I went through every avenue to try to figure out what was wrong with me. Do I have money blocks? I went down a whole rabbit hole of figuring out whether I had any money blocks that were really holding me back. Did I have past identities? I went and did some ancestral work and discovering, anything that was sort of still coming from my past and maybe wasn't even my past. It could have been from my ancestors. There's so many different things that you can do. And I feel like they all helped. There were always insights. There was always learnings at every point. But what happened more recently, and I think this all has to do with, if I'm going to get really woo-woo for a moment, the end of 2025 and the start of 2026. It was the end of a 9-year and the start of a 1-year in numerology, which means a new beginning. Like they go in sets of 9 years, and it was almost like I'd got to the end of this long journey, and a new beginning was starting. And I could kind of feel this. I could feel this real urge inside to close things down, shut stuff off. I wanted to actually just start my entire business again from a blank page. Like, it would be so much easier if I just stopped everything, did nothing, and then just started again. That was how I felt in January. And I'm not going to lie, I'll say that idea sort of stayed in my head for quite a few months. I didn't do that, but, I was actually seriously considering it for a while. And there was a few other things. And I think that what happened with this is the year of the fire horse. It felt like everything had been building to a head, and then it happened. And I am trying to now recall exactly what triggered this perspective. But once I saw it, I could not unsee it. And it was this realization that even though I had left corporate Jess behind in terms of a vast majority of me, there was a piece of her that still remained. And what I recognized, once I could see it, I thought, this is it. This is the whole reason why I felt this way, why all the decisions that I've made and have been on this wild goose chase has literally been because this part of me, this old identity, was still present. And what this means is the piece that I saw that remained was the deepest part, okay, the safety part of the identity. So imagine when you're in a corporate job, or I say corporate, I mean you're in a business, right? So you're in a role. Well, what is safety? Safety is what has made you successful. And, as you've been able to get promotions, you've got better paying jobs, you've got pay rises, you've been applauded, acknowledged, awarded for your efforts and for your results. All of these pieces of evidence basically go in and get stored in your brain as this is what it takes to be successful. And I had a whole ton of that had been sitting there that I had not addressed, and I had not shifted or changed since I moved into entrepreneurship. And the problem is that there was a lot of old wiring, old beliefs, and fear that were still present right up until the start of this year when I discovered this. I had this, so just to give you an idea, and I'm sharing all this with you super openly because I hope that somebody listening, this is feeling very relevant to you. Maybe you're feeling like this is you as well, and I really hope that it's going to help somebody to discover or see something new about yourself. If you've at all felt like it feels familiar to you, this story. So for me, what I saw in the old identity that was currently putting her giant big foot on the brakes, at one point even tried to get me to go back to corporate, back to safety, back to what she knew that she could do, where success came from. But this version of me, even though I left it behind, she was still there, and she was telling me things like, there's safety in knowing all the answers, okay? Because that was what this being an employee had taught me, like, know the answers, know what to do. There was safety in only speaking up when it was appropriate to do so, not really sharing anything deep, having a firm boundary between myself and me, who I really was, and who I was at work. There was almost like a persona at work of this person. And you can see this today. So many people have it. Go onto LinkedIn, look at how people speak on there and think, do they talk like that to their friends? Yeah, I reckon no, the answer. 99% of them do not speak like that to their friends, their kids, their family. But they put on their, telephone voice, as we all used to call it back in the 80s when you'd answer the phone in your special phone voice. They put on their work voice, and that's who they are at work. And it was almost like that was the done thing, right? So here was this almost fakely created identity that I'd built, who thought that you needed external validation. Why? Because we were taught to seek external validation. We were taught that we would be judged on our performance, and then you would only get paid more if you met these metrics. Everything was external validation. You needed to be approved to go on holiday. You needed to be approved to finish work early, do anything, right? You needed validation, you needed approval. And in order to rise up within a company, to get a pay rise or a promotion within a company, you needed some other absolute form of approval and validation. I think the only times you really didn't need that was when you quit a job and you went to a new company to get a new one, because you're effectively starting from a blank sheet again. However, that was how that world works. It's how it still works today. And these things that you learnt, I don't even think I'm not going to say it's the fault of the business world, because actually it comes from school. It's how we were all schooled. We had to put up our hand and ask if you can go to the toilet. You were seeking awards, rewards, approval every day, every week, every year, ever since you started school, and maybe at home as well. So it's not your fault. It's not anyone's fault. But that's what we all saw as how to be successful, was to be approved by other people. There was also safety in, like it was this version of success that I'd created. And old me, this old identity, had really latched onto what it was that created success. So it was in being very knowledgeable. I used to study, I have a degree, I would do extra courses. I was always learning and studying and, looking into the answers, the data, knowing the answers, knowing how to answer questions. So when you got asked questions in meetings, you could answer them and not feel stupid. So this version of me still existed, I discovered. I was like, oh my goodness, this is still there. I am still attached to me being successful as a marketer in corporate. And the whole time, this part of me sort of had its giant big foot on the brakes. It was afraid of decision making that was new. It was afraid of taking risks in certain places because it wasn't validated. So many things that, as an entrepreneur with my business and with what I was wanting to do, there was a giant conflict going on between my new identity and what I was leaning into, and all of the entrepreneurial skills and perceptions and learning that I had done in owning my own business was being conflictly held up by this old version of me, who had a very different perspective on what was going to create success and what was safe. I thought I needed perfect marketing. This whole self-doubt that I had, it wasn't that I didn't think I was good enough. I absolutely knew that I was good enough, but it was almost like there was this more proof that was needed. Like I still had that version of me seeking some kind of approval or validation. I thought I needed everything to be perfect. I thought I needed to be able to teach everything to do with marketing to be considered an expert. And what I kind of came through this whole realization, we'll call it another identity shift and identity death and rebirth that happened this year when I really got rid of this part of me, was that it's okay. It's okay to not be an expert in every aspect of marketing. And I know that when I say that, part of me goes, well, of course it's okay. There's so many different parts of marketing. How could anyone be an expert in all of it? It's it's literally impossible. You would not have enough time in the world. You would have to clone yourself so many times over. You can be very knowledgeable across them all. And, I like to think that I have a really good depth of knowledge across all aspects, but it's okay to not to be an expert in all of them and to admit it. It's okay to say that. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't take anything away from you. It doesn't mean that you can't stand up and be a leader. And allowing that thought to be there, and even to say this right now on a podcast that will be around for many years, old me would never have done it. I would never have lost face by admitting some sort of weakness that I thought could be dangerous. But this was the very learned behavior that had been, I think holding me back so much and stopping me from being able to effectively stand up and effectively speak the truth, lead women and show that it's safe. It's safe to not know the answers right now. It's safe to be discovering who you really are. And it's safe to admit, hey, you know what? There's parts of me that have been holding me back, and it's okay to let them go. If you're really going to step into a place where you're going to take that expertise that makes you so great at what you do, it's that special combination. It's often not, that you've learnt one thing and that's it. It's like this beautiful combination that I see in humans where part of it comes from some natural ability you have. Part of it might come from your past, your childhood, things that you loved, and part of it's from what you've learnt and gained as skills. When you combine these together, you get this absolutely amazing place where you can be somebody who's unmistakably an expert with a difference, because you don't sound the same as everyone else. You've got something unique to say about it. You've got a perspective they don't have. Sometimes it's a very subtle difference, but a subtle difference is enough if you can narrow down what it is and you can speak really clearly on it. You can then stand out and feel very different. They can perceive you as very, very different. And for me to be able to stand up and say that that's my expertise, this is me having got rid of that old part of my identity that was holding me back. And it's incredible, isn't it? There was, once it was there, once I could see it, there was a process that I kind of went through. Yes, there were a few tears. there was definitely a shedding of the identity. And that allowed me to actually step into the shoes of Jess now, who's 100% on this journey, who's 100% knowing that I was here, or I was created. I went through what I went through, especially in the jobs that I had, because I experienced the disadvantages that a lot of women experience and saw them firsthand as well, even if personally I didn't experience some, but I saw it firsthand. And as a manager, as a leader, always being a champion of women, it turned out for me that wasn't enough. I really wanted to see women to support other women, to create something of your own that wasn't created by a man. You're not dependent on a man, a boss, for your success, that you've actually created your own success. And that to me is just so fulfilling, so empowering, and what I want to see so much more of, especially for my daughter and her generation. I think they are going to see a lot more of this, far more than we ever did. But that's what really excites me. And I know that in order to do that, it's about not just helping women find something that you can sell or find something you can do that someone will pay you for. It's actually about finding that thing that allows you to tap into your personal power and really rise up above the generic crowd, because women will get this. I know that if you're listening now and you've got some of your intuition that you're tapping into, you will understand this on maybe a non-logical way, that there's a huge difference between just following practical steps that men would like to do. How they see business is very different. And they've got a very linear way of looking at it. versus women. And we can see that there's so many layers. It's very much emotional, and there's data that backs this up. You can look it up anytime. How many decisions are based on emotion? It's like over 95% of your decisions are based on your emotion, i.e. how you feel. Now, women know this far more than men do, and it's really important because this is how your business is built. Business needs clients as much as our bodies need oxygen. We use oxygen to breathe. That's how we function. And businesses need clients. It's like the oxygen for your business. And so understanding people and emotion and being intelligent about it, really tuning into who they are when they're buying, is the thing that I feel like women can do on a level that a lot of men find very difficult. They like the steps. They want the steps in the very linear, well, here's a skill, here's what I could sell it for, I will sell it for this amount. Instead of actually thinking, where is it that I can make the biggest impact, where I can reach people, actually help them to change and make significant shifts in their life, in their business, whatever it is that you help them with, their health, their fitness, their future. Maybe it is even with money, with that thing. Money is an energy and a source of energy. And, I think there's just so many different ways that we can look at things that I feel women have a lot to bring to us as experts who have a different perspective. So there's me having a little chat. We've had a heart-to-heart today. I've really just shared with you completely from what's inside, and you've got a few insights as to what it is that we do, what we do inside my program Business Jam. It's, that is the first key piece, is helping you zero in on the space that you're going to create where you are unmistakable. And from there, the right offer. And from there, just let's plug in your marketing system. So as we go down that process, obviously we get into far more sort of masculine oriented processes. But I help you to choose and select so that it is aligned, very well aligned for you. And you don't end up with a business that doesn't feel like it's not designed for you. I've had so many horror stories, clients who've come to me saying, well, I did this program and they told me that I had to do X, Y, Z. And they've been given a very, formulated model, system, process, whatever it was for the business. And they've been told, pick this up, put it into your business, and then you'll have the same result. And it just doesn't work like that. And they end up with a business that they don't love, that they don't feel aligned to, that they don't feel like, well, this is it. This is what I am here to do. And if you're not having fun, if you're not loving what you're doing every minute, it is so hard to keep going, right? So I come from the opposite end of the spectrum there, where there's many different ways of creating a marketing system. I've spent over, as I said at the start, over 25 years in marketing. Let me tell you, there are so many different tools, different platforms, different methods that you can use to market your business. You do not need to use all of them, and you're best not to use all of them actually, but it's about finding the ones that most align to you and your clients, and then aligning them to each other. There's sort of like these two different types of alignment that needs to happen. But when you have alignment, both with yourself, how you want to run your business, what you want it to feel like and be like when you're running it, what is also aligned with your clients, and then you align the activities, because usually there's more than one, which is, for, I think, hopefully most people, very obvious. You have more than one activity in a marketing system that would help strangers come in and become clients. When you have them aligned, then there's flow. That's when the flow happens. If you don't have the alignment, then there is no flow. That's when it's not working, right? So it's easy to spot where there's a lack of alignment. For some people, it's less easy to figure out what the alignment is. And that's the kind of framework that I help you to understand it and to choose strategically which are the right activities for you, and then that make most sense to work together, because we want it to be simple, easy, and with the least amount of time and effort involved for you. Not saying that you're not going to have time and effort. You are. I'm someone who's always worked hard, but it's about working hard in short amounts of time, not working long, because that's what allows you to have a life, allows you to do things like turn up at your kids' sports every afternoon and on weekends, and be able to go and exercise yourself, maybe have holidays. That's what the correct sort of structure gives you in your business. So if you are interested in learning more, if you're thinking you would love to come through that process yourself and really fine tune what you have, what your space is in the market, what your offer is, what your marketing system is, then Business Jam is opening again very soon, at the end of this month. Actually, we're in June already. It'll open towards the end of the month, definitely into the start of July. We're kicking off a new round from mid-July. So if you head over to the link in my bio and put your name on the priority list, then you'll hear about it first, and you'll make sure that you don't miss it, because, things get busy on the whole social media. It gets busy in the email, and you might miss it if you're just sort of waiting for the announcement. But if you're on the priority list, then you're going to get a special invite. You're going to obviously have early access, bit of the red carpet treatment. So make sure you're on that priority list now and well ahead of time. Then you definitely won't miss out when it happens, because we open, I need the people in, and then it closes because we go through with a group. So I would like to enable you, if you're keen, to get your place before we have to close it down again. So pop your name on the list. If you want to type it in now, if you're on the computer, it's jessicaosborne.com/businessjam, because this is where we turn your business into the sweetest spread, or we help it make jam instead of, whatever analogies you'd like to say there. So get your name on the list. That's where we're doing it. So excited to have another round of people come through Business Jam. This program has been going now for almost 5 years, actually. Oh, hang on. Yeah, 5 years this year, which is awesome. And so many great success stories. So that is something I'm really excited about, and it's coming up soon. So pop your name on the list. Don't worry if you can't make this next round. If you're going on holiday, whatever it is, there will be another round later in the year that you could be invited to. But if you're on the list, then you're going to know about it. So pop your name in there and I will be in touch with more details. Next week, very excited to announce the 300th episode. Woohoo! We are so excited that this is 300 episodes of this podcast that I created as a way to have more female voices in business heard, because, I don't want to come out, and I'm not against men, by the way. I've got a husband. I love him very much. I've got brothers, many brother-in-laws as well. And there's nothing against men, but there are so many male voices in business and always have been. All the experts, when I was studying marketing and business back in the day, it was all men. There were literally no female experts. And I wanted to create a podcast like this that would bring more female voices, people who are real, like you and I, who are running a business, to share their journeys, to share their insights, to share what's worked for them, to share with you tips, strategies, things they wish they knew when they'd started out, the stories that we can all relate to, and feel like, you're not alone in this. You're never alone. And the more that we connect, with people who are on a similar vibe to us and feel positive about it, I think then that only helps lead to more success. Success breeds success, I like to say. So I like to bring you the voices of successful people so that you can tune in to the frequency of success and the energy of success. And whether you're out on a walk right now, driving in the car, I hope that you're feeling that as well. And we will see you back here again next week. Bye for now.